Research philosophy. The second element of a research is with the philosophy, or intellectual pathway you will use to analyze data and draw conclusions. There are many ways a person can think of a specific phenomenon. You can think of things from many different angles and perspectives, and draw your conclusion on them. The best way to understand the nature of research philosophy is to look at how lawyers manufacture their arguments, and present them in court. Law is among the professions that make the greatest use of research methods in everyday practice. But by far, they are the biggest users of the different research philosophies that are applied in research methods. Let's take this case relating to Brian, Julia, and Jamal. Brian was married to Julia for many years. He was abusive, and the marriage had a lot of issues, until they got divorced. All divorce documents show that Brian always used emotional abuse and verbal abuse against Julia. Apart from a few violent altercations, Brian was always insulting, and habitually saying the most hurtful things to Julia, till they divorced after about 7 years of marriage. One of his specialties was to say some condemnatory things about the secrets of Julia's family, which are indeed embarrassing. Julia moved on and met Jamal from a racial minority group. Now, in the second year of a stable union, Julia and Jamal have really good times together. However, Brian and Julia have a few things to deal with, including settlements for some joint projects they undertook as husband and wife. In the process, they have had a few court-mandated meetings. In one of these meetings, there was an incident where Julia met Brian for a court-related settlement that got violent. Julia was depressed for many days but did not tell Jamal. However, Jamal sensed it but did not say anything because he wanted to keep the peace with his wife. On a day they met randomly in a public area, Brian used abusive words against them, shouting on top of his voice. In the process, he racially abused Jamal, who rushed to Brian and landed a deadly punch on his face, breaking his nose and a few bones around his neck and shoulder. Brian's lawyers have taken 2 actions. 1. File criminal charges for assault, battery and grievous bodily harm against Jamal and 2. Sue Julia for deliberately provoking the scene, thus, demanding damages to be paid as a deduction to the money Brian is mandated to pay to Julia. Based on these facts, the lawyers of Brian, Jamal, and Julia will all need separate case strategies to either push their claims, or defend themselves. This is where research philosophy is important. This is because the lawyers will have to conduct research, gather data, and present it within an ideological framework that would aid their claims. First, Brian's lawyers will have to state the facts as and how they occurred. He is likely to use what is known as positivism. He has to present things as they are, and elaborate the extent to which the damage has affected his client. This will involve making claims, showing how bad Brian has been affected physically, economically, psychologically and emotionally. All of this will need evidence like hospital reports, work absentee documents, and others. This will be about the action, impact and implications. It is factual and about what happened in the place and time Jamal and Brian had the altercation. On the other hand, Jamal's lawyers will have to use a different research philosophy. They cannot expect to benefit from positivism as a means of legal research. They will need a different research philosophy. In this case, they might want a method that explains why Jamal had to do what he did. One research philosophical approach that may work is pragmatism. Jamal was provoked, and he did what he had to do. He could also use realism, which is about invoking factors that got his law-abiding, and nonviolent client, Jamal, to get so violent in that incident. This way, he will be discrediting any claims that might present Jamal as a danger to society. Jamal's lawyers could also use a research philosophy called interpretivism, which involves identifying the different roles of human actors or elements of a research. In this case, the application of the ideology of interpretivism will show that Jamal is a different person, with different circumstances, and was provoked beyond reasonable levels by the event. This will involve highlighting the damage Brian's attitude and emotional abuse of Julia is causing Jamal. And how Jamal has always been degraded with racism, which can cause anyone to lose his calm under the circumstances Jamal found himself. On the third dimension, Julia's lawyers have to find the best research philosophy to refute Brian's attempt to overreach and abuse this incident to avoid his mandated obligation to Julia. They can use positivism. Julia had absolutely no role in the case and hence, cannot be forced to lose any benefits arising from past circumstances. After all, Julia was not trained to de-escalate situations like this, or mandated by law to do so in such events. They can also use realism. Brian is a bully, and he has done this for over a decade. Therefore, Julia was so happy to stand back for Jamal to give him a good beating he deserved. This is exactly how research philosophy works. As an academic, you might not be under the same pressure as a lawyer who takes money to prevent his client from falling foul of the law. Research philosophy in legal terms, are result-oriented. It is about what will work, and earn a lawyer his paycheck.